Hey guys, me again, Orc Slayer. What ifs? Where we last left off? Let's see. Checking. Where we last left off? Cut through quickly. Deku joined a gang, Sludge's gang, which involves Looney and Jackster. Jackster has a quirk that allows him to sort of vibrate his hands, and there's sort of like has equipment that sort of like makes him like metal to where he can drill through stuff, similar to a jackhammer, which is his quirk. Then you got Looney, who is just crazy. She seems like she's a drug addict, and her thing is like the Tasmanian devil. You know, really fast, can spin around and make like a little tornado of herself. Excuse me. Then you got Sludge, who is pretty much just a Sludge villain. I'm drinking Sprite. It's delicious. Anyways, Gang Orca and Fat Gum. Well, Fat Gum was tracking some of the trigger that Deku and the gang sort of got their hands on, where Deku and Looney pretend to be a couple and were working for for Deku to, get to use because they're underground fighters, quote unquote. Sludge killed the three guys, so they most likely won't be coming back after him. Or at least that's what they believe, since they know they're probably not part of a bigger organization. And so they're going to do what they can in that area. But anyways, Gang Orca has seen Deku and can understand somewhat of Deku's strife. How he looks, how he is, since Gang Orca is, as it was mentioned in the anime, he's like one of the most villain-esque looking heroes out there. So he's like, I understand what you mean, kid, but... And from, like I said, they know that Deku wasn't the one who instigated the fight, but he did nonetheless almost borderline cripple a couple of kids. So he understands it and wants to help Deku, since Gang Orca himself has been there. I don't know if that's actually true, but I'm just going on with that saying, since I think it would be a pretty cool idea. But anyways, as I digress, Fat Gum and Gang Orca. Anyways, let me just cut straight ahead to the actual story. Deku and them are Deku and Jackster are just sitting down doing some schoolwork, since, like I said, Jackster was actually a school teacher beforehand, teaching Deku how to do mathematics, history, stuff like that. Jackster was an all-rounder when it came to teachers. As he's teaching Deku about some of the history of Japan and some of the first eras where Quirk where he talked about some of the first Quirk Wars, which aren't a real thing as far as we know, but I have no doubt militaries do not use them for military purposes. You cannot tell me that any country wouldn't. Just imagine, U.S. has, let's say the equivalent of Hulk on the battlefield. There's going to be some other countries using them. And maybe there are actually some religions that spawned around, because there's got to be a few of them. As Deku envisioned All Might as a god, he cannot be the only one. I would actually love to see just a cult of All Might. Just oh, hail the All Savior, All Might. And it's just this is getting weird. This is getting fanatical. We need to stop this. It's All Might, stop being godlike. It's what do you mean? It's he doesn't even understand. This is just like with the Emperor. This sucks. But anyways, as Deku and them are sitting down, Looney comes in and just flops down on the couch next to Deku's what you doing, buddy? He's schoolwork. It's annoying. It's well, it may be annoying. It may be annoying, Deku, but you still need to do this. Or Croc. Anytime I say Deku, they're really referring to him as Croc or Killer. Looney typically refers to Deku as Killy or Lily Croc or Lil Croc. As Deku's why did she call me that? He's cause it's adorable. As he's I will eat you. She's oh, really? He's she's you call me a little snack? As Deku's shut up, please. I cannot say anything to her. Anytime I say something, she just rolls it off. As Deku's how do you do that? How do you just roll off anytime someone says something like that to you? She's Well, I know you want me to get angry at that, so I don't give you what you want. He's like, she excellent when it comes to wordplay. I hate her. She's like, oh, you don't hate me, little croc. He's like, Daxter's like, hey, back off, Looney. I need to get him to look some of this stuff, alright? So, anyways, kid. You need to know this if you want to ever go have a hope in going to UA. Like, how old are you again? Deku's like 14, 15 in this? 14. No, let's say, 14 would be a good age. Sorry if I'm changing up his age. It's just I'm trying to get him, like, to where it wouldn't be weird for gang work to show up. And whisk Deku away. But anyways, as Deku and them are like all talking, Deku's doing schoolwork. Looney actually says that you're doing this wrong. She's like, what do you mean? This is right. As she's like, no. As she like writes correct equation. As Jaxter threw this at Deku because this is like somewhat of a college level question, so he could get Deku to fail. Or see if Deku has actually been studying ahead like Jaxter's been telling him. And Looney just solved it right away. He's like, Looney, how do you answer that? She's like, well, it was simple. As she says, X, Y equals Z. And as it's like, Looney, how do you do that? And she's like, well, I was a math major. He's like, excuse me, what? She's like, yeah, I was like a math teacher for a long while. Got bored of it, though. She's like, there's no way you just got bored of it and fell into a gang. She's like, no, there was a longer, more arduous road, but that isn't for this story, for a little croc to hear. As Deku's like, you guys are a weird bunch of people. This is like some A-team stuff. Just constantly going. Anyways, as Sludge bursts into a room, and Deku's like, as Deku's like, great, what now? And she's like, there's a job coming up. He's like, and what is it? They need Deku. As Deku's like, Christ, Sludge, what did you volunteer me for now? As he's like, they need someone to be a big, tough, scary-looking bodyguard. You're it. He's like, how much are we getting paid? And they're like, street cred. As Deku's like, I'm gonna knock you. He's like, alright, calm down, calm down. Deku says, I told you, I didn't. How high level are these guys? As Deku's like, if you tell me they're higher level than common thug, I'm gonna smack you into next Wednesday. And then I'm smacking you back to this time just to smack you again. As Deku's like, as Sludge is like, they're low tier thugs. As Deku's like, you're lying to me, aren't you? He's like, as he starts banging away, as Deku's about to jump at him, and Sludge is about to turn into sludge form, and Jaxter's like, calm down, Deku. Sludge, why did you do this? You know how he feels about this. As he's like, well, listen, they came to me, kinda cornered me, and I owed them a favor. As Jaxter's like, Christ. Do they know what he looks like? No, I just told them that he's a really big, intimidating guy. As he's like, alright, we can work with this. We need a lot of clothing. As is like, what do you mean? He's like, alright, Looney, how long does Deku have? He's like, it's about a week away. He's like, alright, we need to get all the leather we can, heavy looking armor stuff too, and we're gonna slap it onto him, cover completely so nobody could tell what he looks like. As Deku's like, that's actually a pretty good idea, so what are we gonna do? Director says, I don't know exactly, but we just gotta do something, because we cannot have you being seen if you want to go to where you want to go. He's like, where does the kid want to go? UA, shut up. I was like, damn, man, fine. Like, you guys aren't planning on being in this forever, are you? As Jaxter asks this, he's like, as Looney's like, nah, I was just playing a figuring following Deku around if you guys just ditch me. As they're like, Looney, we ain't ever gonna ditch you. We're a team in this. Sludge is like, yeah, to tell you the truth, I was just doing this to get by. It was a little bit of fun, causing a little bit of havoc. Well, since we're all low tier, we haven't messed with anyone too big, aside from that Yakuza event. But anyways, we're live. Hey, we could all just like get a house and stay in there together, right? As Looney's like, yeah, that sounds like really fun. As Deku's like, I don't know if I could take all these guys living in one house again for the rest of my life. As Deku's like, well, Jackson ain't that bad. As Jackster is just sitting there, as he just goes like, so anyways, as he's like, so that's your plan? What are you gonna do for a job? He's like, well, I actually do know a bit about civil work and construction and stuff like that. There's always more construction to be done. You kidding how some of these heroes fight? There are construction companies in this place alone. You know how often people have to replace things because of Endeavor? Oh my Mount Lady. Strong arms, but that really ain't his fault half the time. He just punches people and they break stuff. That is not even getting into the numerous amount of villain attacks and how much damage they do. I could be rolling in dough and probably be making a 6-figure salary if I did not get caught just doing something with my boss's wife. Anyways, when we're moving on, it's like, excuse me, run that back? As they get on to a whole argument of how freaking Sludge got caught with his boss's wife. As he's like, it wasn't my fault. She came on to me. It's like, Deku's like, Jaxter's been explaining something to me that maybe you should hear. Something's too good to be true, and your life is going really good, and something comes to sprinkle that extra bit on top of it. Sometimes it's okay to go without the sprinkles. She's like, oh, how'd you know her name? As Deku's like, man, I hate this guy sometimes, but he's also the one who saved my ass, so Jaxter's like, Deku's right, you shouldn't have done it. But anyways, let's get back to work, shall we? As they all, like, spread around this week trying to find things, as Deku, on one of his, like, nightly jaunts, is just walking around in, like, a very busy part of the city, as he's like, as he's has a hood up, like, and a face mask covering his face. Like, he even coughs every once in a while to make people think, oh, he must be sick. As Deku's like, as he arrives at, like, a little coffee shop, he's like, cats. This ought to be interesting. As he gets in there, as it's like, welcome to the cat shop. How may we help you? He's like, can I get some coffee? As he's like, never understood why Jaxter likes this stuff so much, but it's the only thing I really know. He's like, alright, how would you like that? He's like, plenty of sugar, and give me a giant mug, please. And so like, alright, plenty of sugar and a giant mug. He's like, and Splenda, if you got it. Splenda is what I personally use. It is very tasty. Though I did hear it may cause cancer in some places, but I prefer Splenda to some of the other artificial stuff I've tasted. Ugh. Nasty. Ugh. As Deku's like sitting there, as he's like, you know, this place is quite quiet, it's quite nice. As this is like almost midnight, like close to midnight, as they're like, well, we're gonna close at 12, so you should please hurry up, sir. It's like as he's just like enjoying the coffee, he's like, it's nice. As he gets up, he's like, oh, as he just puts some money, as he was sitting down for them to make his coffee, as then he grabs it, gives them the money, he's like, thanks, I'll enjoy it. As he takes a swig, he's like, well, it does feel warm. It's pretty good since I guess I'm part lizard technically. As he's like, wonder what to do. Ain't much. As he's looking around, he's like, bored. As he looks up, he sees Aizawa, like, on the thing. He's like, I guess that's a hero. As he bumps into a guy accidentally, like, spilling his coffee so much, he's like, oh, damn it. He's like, hey, buddy, watch where you're going. As he goes to, like, sort of shove Deku, he sees Aizawa. As Deku's, like, looking up still, he gets up and sees Aizawa turn his head slightly. As Deku's like, I cannot let this get out of hand. My face is known. He's like, sorry, buddy. You know, he's like, nah, no, you just ruined my nice new shirt, buddy. So how about we settle? How about you give me a bit of money so I can replace that? Deku's like, dude, it's a little bit of coffee. It ain't that much. As the dude's like, you know what? Shut up. You're gonna give me a bit of money now, or there's gonna be some actions taken. As Deku notices, he's like, an up jumped thug thinks he's a big boss. As he looks around, he's like, he's got two little henchmen, and he sees like they got like girlfriends with them. As he's like, as he just takes the last swig of his coffee, he's like, oh. Throws the coffee mug at the guy next to him. It's like, I think I broke my nose, man. As Deku's like, as he backhands the other one coming at him, he's like, now, as he cracks his knuckle, do we have a problem, sir? As he lets a little bit of that deeper guttural voice come out. As the guy's like, you betcha. As he goes, like, he looks like he's going to grab a gun, and Deku sees some tape shoot out as he looks up and sees Aizawa pinning the guy to the ground. It's like, it seems like a problem. The situation escalated. As he looks at Deku, as Deku's like, He's like, sir, would you be willing to come with me? As Deku said, no. I did nothing wrong. Goodbye. As he goes to walk away, Aizawa was like, do you want press charges? As Deku just looks like, listen, man, it seems like they were just trying to impress their little girlfriends. There ain't no harm done. I ain't bleeding. He's bleeding, though, but doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, sir. Mr. or... what's your name? He's like, name's Eraserhead. As Deku's like, alright, goodbye, Eraserhead. As Aizawa thinks this is like an adult man. As Deku's just like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Keep your cool, keep your cool. Keep calm, keep cool, keep collected. He won't find out. As he's thinking about this, as Aizawa's like, this person looks familiar, but where have I seen him before? So he was like, well, goodbye, Mr. Eraserhead. As he walks out, he's like, thank Jesus and God above. Thank the Lord. As he's like, I was not God. If my mask came off or my hood, I feel like it's because from what it seems that Jackster says, I am pretty well known. I'm glad I wore gloves. He's like, oh, thank God. As he's walking away, I was like, he's breathing it pretty heavily. Man, maybe he just restrained himself quite a bit from attacking these idiots. He's like, you and their girlfriends? I was like, oh, yes. He's like, good. Keep your boyfriends out of trouble. As he boots the leader on his backside, he's like, now get it. Got more important things to do. As Aizawa stops by the coffee shop, he's like, hey guys. As before, I don't know how long before it was, before he started like teaching at UA to this point. I think it may have been just like 4 or 5 years. I'm not entirely sure, like I said. But anyways, he's like, so yeah, he's like, oh yeah, you just stopped that guy. He's like, what guy? He's like, the one who threw the coffee mug. He's like, yeah, he just got a coffee from here. Ugh. Lots of sugar, extra large coffee. It's like, well, he knows the taste. As he drinks his coffee, that's pretty much the exact same as Deku's. Deku gets home, he's like, had a fun night. He's like, yeah, a couple of guys tried to jump me. He's like, you do good. Yeah, Hero saved me from having to beat the living crap out of the guys. As he's like, good, you're watching your language. As Deku, for a little bit, had this, well, he didn't actually have a sailor mouth. He's just like, Sludge and Looney have been trying to encourage him to like use more vulgar words. But Deku's just like, guys, it's just leave me be. As he's just like, Deku, are you a man of God, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, alright. What's one of the first parts of the Bible without having to read it? Deku asks, which one? New or Old Testament? As he's like, give me the Old Testament. And he's like, do you mean like chapters, verses? He's like, give me the first verse that's spoken there. And I actually do have my Bible right here. Alright. Give me a second. He's like, part 1, the very first verse is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He's like, second part, and the earth was without form, void, darkness was upon the face of the deep. He's like, alright, give me As he's like, how many verses are there in there? He's like, there's a total of 20, no, not 20, sorry, 31 verses in the first part of Genesis. He's like, all right, give me 29. God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of the tree yielding seed to you shall be for meat. Jackster's just like, all right, what's another thing for the Bible? He's like, well, there's the other ones. He's like, would you like to know about Matthew? Or, you know what? How about I just do... Good question. How about first part of Exodus? Alright, first one. Now these are names of the children of Israel, and so on. So, came into Egypt, every man. Yep. Yes, I do have my own Bible. It was given to me at birth. It's made special for me. Bible stories with Orc Slayer 13, not 13, God, Orc Slayer what ifs. Yeah, I got one right here. But anyways, as Deku is just playing this little game with frickin' Jackster, he's just like, man, you really... Deku's like, I did grow up with a nun and was part of the church. I actually did a lot of food drives with... did a few food things with people, prayers. I actually think I was part of a baptism at one point. I'm not entirely sure if I'm remembering. I can't remember if I was the one being baptized, or if I was helping, or I was there as a witness to baptization. I'm not quite remembering that correctly, am I? He's like, Deku, it doesn't matter. Either way, you're person of God, right? He's like, yep. As Deku actually walks over to where he typically sits in their little place, he opens his drawer and he's like, I have my Bible right here, given to me by Sister Josephine. So you talk about that girl sometimes. What was she to you? And he's like, mother, sister, friend. As Deku looks down at the Bible, he's like, this was hers. Gave it to me on the first day I was able to read, and actually encouraged me to read it. As he's just sort of feeling the Bible, she did get a special one made for him, since she could tell that he may end up being quite big, since she got it to him, since he had and good enough grade level to understand most of the words. And how the word, since in the Bible it is phrased weirdly, since it's it's thee, thou, they, shout, all words like that. So Deku explains that she got it for him when he was about maybe 8, 9, maybe even 10, since she died when he was 11. He goes on to explain that she got it for him and had it specially made so that would be much larger, as this Bible's about the size of a textbook. As he's like, that is a pretty big Bible, Deku. As he's like, yeah, and even now, as he holds it in his hand, he's like, it's about the size of a normal Bible for another person. I think by the time I'm fully grown, it should be a bit smaller than my actual hand. As Deku's like, you really like that. That woman really was your mother, wasn't she? She's like, Deku's like, she was the most important woman I will probably know. As Deku, his voice breaks up a little bit. He's like, my mom abandoned me, and from what seems like my dad was the first one to go, so. And now Josephine's gone. As he's just does that little snort thing when some people are trying to keep themselves from crying. He's like, just give me a minute, Jackster. As Deku just leans back and just puts his hand as he holds the Bible close to his heart, as it's like, you're a good boy. You're a good boy, Deku. I'm sure you'll be a great man. As he stands up, he's like, I'm gonna go to bed. Try not to stay up too late. As he's like, yeah, sure, Jackster. Deku's like, I hope you're watching over me, Josephine. And I hope you're not disappointed. As Deku's like very sad that she's gone, like I said, and like he's probably never gonna get over it. But as he's like, maybe I need to go to a church. He's like, tomorrow's Sunday. Maybe I could find one. As he goes to bed, as he wakes up due to a nightmare of him seeing Josephine dying, he's like, of course, anytime I sees the Bible, he still like has it close to him. He's like, anytime I read this, or anytime like that, I have a nightmare of her. As he gets up, he's like, as he's like, Looney, she's like, as he goes downstairs, as Looney's cooking stuff, she's like, yeah, Deku? Or Killer, little Croc, as he's like, can I borrow your phone for a minute? She's like, yeah. He looks it up, he's like, churches and where they are. As he's like, it seems there's one close by. As he gets up, as he's like, this will be interesting. He's like, I haven't been to one in a while. As he grips the book tight, he's like, as he starts walking, as he puts on somewhat nice clothes. As on Thursday, that's when the thing's gonna happen, the whole bodyguard thing. As Deku is walking, he's like, as he comes across the church, he's like, he looks down at his Bible, he's like, alright, as he does still have his hoodie and stuff on, but it's like more of a nice, clean hoodie. So he arrives at the church as there's people greeting him, as he sees a girl with weird-looking green hair, as she has her hands like placed like in front of her, as Deku's like, that's pretty weird. Huh. So he walks through, as he actually opens his door for her, and then she's like, thank you, sir. It's like, no problem. As he goes over and sits down, as Ibara's looking at him, she's like, quite peculiar. That Bible is quite massive. As before, service starts at 12. It's typically when it starts here in America, from what I can tell, on Sundays. So I'm just going to say it's the same thing over in Japan. As Ibara's looking at the massive Bible he has in his hand, she's like, that thing's like almost as big as my entire chest. Or my entire torso. She's like measuring it compared to her Bible. That's things like 4 of mine. Lengthwise even. And it's like about the same time thick, I would say, but maybe a bit more, since as she's like leaves her parents' side, as they see her walking up to a person, she's like, she must be welcoming a new member. As Deku's like looking for a place to sit, to where he's like, I'd probably break that, as they have the like choir seats, not choir seats, the church seats there. What are they called? Give me a second. He's looking at the pews, that's what they're called, sorry. As he's like, I probably will break those in half if I try to sit on it. As he's looking around, he's like, oh, there's a normal chair. She's about to walk over. Ibara says, excuse me, sir. As he's like, hello, young lady. As he gives like a little bit of a bow. She's like, well, may I see your Bible? She's like, it's quite large and I find it quite fascinating. He's like, yes. As he lets her see it, as it has his name inscripted at the bottom as Izuku, and let's just say it's Izuku, since let's just say Josephine gave him her last name. Like after a while, she's like, he never really took on a name, so let's just say she just gave him his. Like I said, as Deku had read, he's like, I did consider her my mother or sister, whichever. As it's like Josephine Daniels. As like Izuku Daniels. That name sounds American, isn't it? She's like, yes, my mother was from America. As he's looking at the Bible, she's like, yes. And wow, it seems quite like a May I try to hold it?" As he's like, "Sure." As she's like, "Whew, this thing is quite heavy." He's like, "Yes, it is quite heavy." As he's like, "It's been with me for almost a decade now." As he tries to play up the aspect that he's like an older guy by even doing that thing like where you hear me like deep in my voice slightly. He does like, instead of sounding like higher, maybe a bit higher pitch, since his vocal cords are more naturally guttural, he tries to somewhat, let's just say, straighten them out. So instead of sounding like "Come on, how long do I have to wait?" He straightens it out. He's like, still a bit like guttural, but he's like, "Come on, how long?" As he like has struggle like keeping it nice and even, so he talks in like short bursts. He's like, "Yes, my mom." So "my mom," like that. Few words at a time, so he doesn't sound like just a mindless monster, as he would put it. And she's like, "Well, what was her name? Josephine Daniels," as I just said. As he's like, "Josephine Daniels." She's like, quite a lovely name. Are you looking for a place to see?" He's like, "Yes. Afraid I might break the pew." She's like, "I see what you mean. You do seem quite hefty." She's like, "You may say what it is. I'm big." As she's like, "I feel like that would be an understatement, sir." As Deku and her are just having a nice conversation, as you can see the preacher walk on stage. She's like, "Well, pleasant to meet you, Mr. Daniels." As he's like, "Pleasure to meet you, Ibara." She's like, "Oh, my name is Shiozaki," is her last name, I think. Yes, it's Ibara Shiozaki is her first name. I mean, Ibara Shiozaki is her full name. I think Ibara is her first name. Shiozaki is her last name. Pretty sure. I am confused. I'm just gonna say Miss Shiozaki to save time. It's like, "A pleasure meeting you, Miss Shiozaki." And she's also apparently seriously religious, like more so than I thought she was. She's referring to her teammates as sinful in hopes that a character will be relieved of their sins by the fires of hell. So, as Deku's like, she seems nice. As she's like, quite a peculiar man. Very polite too. I was really thinking he might be sinful with how different he is." As Deku's like, "I feel like she's talking bad about me." As he just sits down on one of the seats, as it's like a heavier seat, since these church does have some members that are bigger due to their quirks. As Deku sits in one of these chairs, so he gets a couple of guys next to him that are quite big as well. Not as big as him, but pretty big. As Deku's like, these are actually quite comfortable. Almost as comfortable as my chair at the house. Or even Jackster's. So he just listens to a preacher go on about the Word of God and the lesson he has for that day. The churches I've been to, is they typically focus on a lesson for that segment. And they typically go on and tell the stories of the Bible about that segment. This one particular, focusing on how Jesus sort of, instead of eating with like well-off people like the kings and the Pharisees, I believe was their name, the Pharisees. Was it the Pharisees? Or the... No, sorry. It's not that he refuses to eat with them. It's just the fact that he tries to teach them and they don't listen to him. As he tries to explain the whole idea of what his mission is. As they refuse it, Deku's like, frick. Sorry about that, folks. Sorry about that. My leg just cramped up like a bitch. Anyways, as Deku sits through the whole sermon, he listens very intently. As he's like, "This makes a lot of sense." As in, 1 second later, bam! The door splits open, sees a group of people running in. As they're like, fuck, the cops, the sheriffs are on their way. As they're looking around, they notice where they are, and they're like, "We got a plan, boys." As they're like, "Everybody on the ground!" As everyone gets on the ground, even Deku, because he's like, if I try to do something, people may get hurt. As they're like, this is a hot situation. You all will stay on the ground. We're going to put some holes in people. As they're like, as the leader of this group is like, Deku looks at him. He's like, he's shaking. His eyes look dilated. As Deku gets a somewhat good look at his face, he's like, he does not look like he's in his right mind. Don't tell me he's on a fucking drug. Please tell me it's not a fucking drug. As he like doses up, as Deku's like, oh shit. As everyone's looking around, Ibara and her family are scared. Like, they're like, oh god. As Ibara's like, these dang sinners. As Deku's like, okay, just gotta lay low for a little bit. As in the heroes start, like, there's like a whole thing where they get microphones like, dear villains, put your hands up in the air and come out and none of you will be harmed. As they're like, we can make the decisions here, you copper, and go to hell, you heroes. As one of them grabs one of the people and is like, anyone makes a move, this person dies. As then the hero's like, no what, that's it, we're coming in. As then there's a gunshot as the guy falls to the ground. He's like, next time while you suggest something idiotic, 10 more go down. Second of them are freaking out. Deku's like, oh, this is going to be rough. He's like, now everybody, put your hands behind your head. As that's where I'm going to be ending this one off at. I hope you guys enjoy this. Hope you guys continue to enjoy this. Hope you guys, I'm going to try to get the gameplay that I put up look better. Anyways, hope you guys have a nice day, a nice night, nice life. And again, love you guys. Bye.